Today I'm going to tell a little bit about the storm over Hengyang 1944. This is a Chinese war game published in the Chinese war game magazine that is called Board War Game. Not a particularly imaginative title, but I think it gets the point across. The magazine is in Chinese only. The instructions of the game originally in the magazine are published in Chinese, but the game also has English instructions available online, and therefore the game is perfectly playable even if you do not read Chinese. That's my situation, and I still was able to play the game without any particular problem. The instructions seem a little vague, quote-unquote strange at times in the phrasing, but they were perfectly understandable. I didn't have any problem. Also because I already knew many of the concepts of the game, as war gamers will recognize from the title. Storm over Hengyang belongs to the storm over system, which is an area impulse system that has been implemented in several war games, most famously in Storm over Stalingrad. This game here, Storm over Hengyang, depicts a battle that took place in World War II, 1944. We have Chinese defenders and Japanese invaders that are trying to take control of the city of Hengyang, and they're coming from two different directions, and they are pressuring the Chinese defenders. Let me show the board and let me tell a little bit about the game mechanics and the game rules. Based on a magnetic support, there's also a map for another game behind it, but do not worry about that one. The map that we're talking about today is this one. This is the map for the game. It is divided in areas. Each area will contain a variable number of units, so do not worry if there aren't many areas on the board. A lot of stuff happens within each area as units within areas are handled individually. During setup, the Japanese player will attack from the west and from the south, and the Chinese player will try to defend that area by slowing down the Japanese player for as much as possible. If you played other games in the Storm over system, then you will know the general ideas. I can tell you then right off the bat that the main difference that I've seen from other games in the system is that here there is a chain of command. That is, when you activate units, you spend command points on one of your commanders. From the commander that commands the unit they're activating. In other games of the system, for example, in Storm over Stalingrad, I don't remember seeing anything like that. But maybe my memory is failing me here. In any case, what happens here is that there are random elements that are tossed into the mix by two sets of chits that are drawn randomly. One represents events, random events, and the other one represents tactical chits that the players can use to grant themselves several types of advantages. For example, during combat. During a turn, players alternate impulses, and when it is your turn to take an impulse, then you can activate any and all of the units in an area as long as you spend the command points from the corresponding commander, and units that are activated can be used to move or to attack. But you can also spend command points to choose a spent unit and to refresh that unit. That is a rally action. Or you can also spend command points to play tactical chits, tactical actions. So you have to keep track of that. Now, what do your units do? When they move, well, guess what? They can move. That's pretty much it. When they attack, well, infantry and engineers can attack units that are in the same area or into an adjacent area. There are terrain modifiers that need to be taken into account, but the general procedure to attack is very simple. You roll 2d6, you add the attack value of the units that are attacking. You may also have modifiers from tactical chits. From that total, you subtract the defense value of the best defender in there that you're attacking. Also, there may be modifiers that have to do with terrain, but only if you're attacking from an adjacent area. if you're in the same area that you're attacking, then the 3 modifiers don't apply. And then you compare the two results, that is the total attack versus the total defense. If the total attack is higher than the total defense, then the difference between the two numbers is the number of hits that the defender must absorb. And you can absorb a hit by spending a fresh unit, 2 hits by spending a fresh unit, that is turning it on its spent side and retreating it, and 3 hits by eliminating a fresh unit. Units, after they're activated, are spent, that is, after they move or attack. So usually you move, you're spent, and the defender gets a chance to attack you. As I said, you can also become spent because of hits that you have to absorb. It's a very simple, very straightforward system. There are a couple of other things, but this is pretty much most of it. Most of the rulebook really is about explaining you how to use the tactical cheats and the event cheats, that is, individual descriptions of events that may happen and modifiers that may apply. But the general system is one of the most basic ones that you can find. The Storm Over system would definitely be suitable for a beginner wargamer. The game continues until the end of turn 7, and at that point the winner is the player that controls most areas that have a golden letter to indicate them. You control areas by being the sole occupant. You also have 2 river areas there. You cannot move from one another. You have to move from a bank of the river to the other, and nobody ever controls those. In any case, there's also a chance that the game will end earlier if a certain event takes place, and in that case, then victory is based on the number of enemy units that you have eliminated. Now, the game is nice. Urban fighting is not for everybody, not for every wargamer, because very often it has a little bit of a slow pace, a little bit of a sluggish sense of, wow, there's like incredibly hard progression, pushing against the enemy inch after inch, having to take control of every building, of really every inch of a city. This is something that's typical of urban fighting. I personally like games that capture urban fighting very much, and I think that games in the Storm Over system really work well for this, because you have these areas with a lot of units. Very often you have units of the 2 sides in the same area. It does give you the sense of the chaos. Contested areas really feel contested. You can really imagine fighting going on in alleys and streets and buildings. I think it really captures this well. Again, the pace is not the fastest that there is, but for this theme, I think that the pace works well. The game is also not particularly long. It is not a slow-paced game that also takes 12 hours to play, so that definitely helps. The game tells a strong story, tells a strong narrative, again with this tension that is mounting. I definitely like the Storm Over system in general, the spend system, the action system. I find it very solitaire friendly, and I played this game solitaire only. It didn't have any problem, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. The event cheats add randomness to the situation. That, of course, makes it even more solitaire friendly. The tactical cheats, that's something you have to get used to if you're playing solitaire, but not a big deal. If you like the Storm Over system, this is a nice new addition to the system. If you've never tried it, this could be a good place to start, because it is a nice game, not particularly complicated, definitely beginner friendly, solid war game overall.